Exposed, spine-chilling woman haunts Indonesian stadium. Discover the unexplained terror. #scary. The night was thick with whispers. Shadows danced in the alleyways, moving in time with an inexplicable dread. Local children swore they saw a ghostly figure, a woman in tattered white, lingering near the rotting stadium known as the Hollow. Her long, matted hair floated about her like dark seaweed. Some still held on to stories of those who vanished nearby, taken by her chilling embrace. What lurked beyond the light was a mystery, a slow crawl of terror that wrapped around the small town like a vice. Emma felt it in every corner of their home. Her heart raced as she stared into the dim corners of her room. Something inky and sinister pooled there. Her mother's night shifts kept her alone, trapped in the silences between each creak of the floorboards. The air grew thick with dread, and muffled sounds invaded her dreams, stiffening her sheets with fear. As Lily worked tirelessly at the grocery store, her mind often drifted toward comfort. Mr. Thompson, her neighbor, offered a smile when they crossed paths. At first, she was hesitant, sensing something off-kilter beneath his amiable surface, but she brushed it aside. He told stories of bravery, days spent serving his country, and she couldn't help but lean into his warmth. She accepted his offers for rides home, a fleeting relief from her relentless shifts. In the golden light, the thrill of the suburb wrapped around her, but her teenage girl was slipping through the cracks. Emma was no longer just a child. She was now a warrior facing the darkness alone. Exploring the community library, bits of folklore began to piece themselves together. The tale of the woman dressed in white wasn't just a local ghost story. It was part of something much deeper, haunting lives in twisted ways. She dug and pulled at the threads, revealing scandalous mysteries that made her stomach churn. Suddenly, just as those thoughts solidified, her mother brushed aside her frights. "Just teenage anxiety, sweetheart," Lily would say, hardly looking up from her phone. Each dismissal split Emma in two, a child's fear pitting against her mother's unwavering clinging to their suburban illusion. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The escalating dread finally took hold on a night when Emma dared to confront Mr. Thompson. In the dim light, she sensed the air clung to him like a wet blanket. Every tale he'd spun painted a heroic facade, yet the way he hovered on the periphery felt eerie, like an unwanted shadow. Emma could barely breathe. The very breath hung heavy with unknowing. When she vanished, the house turned to an echo, her frantic calls swallowed by night. Lily's heart exploded in panic. Her daughter was nowhere to be found. As she dashed down their quiet street, the truth clawed at her thoughts. Could Mr. Thompson be hiding more sinister secrets? The pulse of dread quickened as the whispers of the neighborhood merged with her cries. She had trusted him, but reality was shattering, leaving her standing before a chasm of horror. That hoary stadium loomed just past the last familiar streetlight. Darkness beckoned, and the air thickened with masculine presence. Was the woman in white rising again? Or was it another shadow drawn towards stolen innocence? Every heartbeat echoed in her ears as she took her first step toward the unknown, knowing whatever awaited her could swallow everything whole. Lily pressed on, each step a battle against the dread clawing at her heart. The night air crackled with a tense energy that made her skin prickle. As she approached the stadium, its dilapidated structure loomed ahead like a hungry beast waiting to pounce. The faint light from street lamps barely reached the edges of its crumbling walls, shadows gorging themselves in dark corners. "Emma!" she shouted again, her voice strained. Each cry echoed back, mocking her. It felt as if the stadium itself was laughing at her, basking in her fear. She shivered, the chill creeping into her bones like a thief. There was a wrongness here, something that made the air feel thick, suffocating. She'd heard whispers of the woman in white for years, from local lore, from frightened children in the grocery store. But could Emma have stumbled into such a story? She shook her head, refusing to entertain that notion. This is just a stadium, just a building, she told herself. But her racing heart betrayed her. As she neared the entrance, her gaze darted to the overgrown weeds, snatching at broken glass and forgotten dreams. Suddenly, she noticed a flicker. Was it a figure? For a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a glimpse of white flitting behind the rusted gates. Panic streamed through her veins. "Emma!" she screamed, forcing herself forward, knowing she had to confront whatever darkness awaited her. Stepping through the threshold sent waves of nausea rushing over her. Inside, stale air hung heavy with a scent of rot and decay. Darkness swallowed the space, the only sound the erratic thud of her own heartbeat. She took small steps, her breath shallow. Shadows loomed, twisting around her. Every creak of the floorboards echoed ominously. Was she truly alone? Lily stopped, straining to listen. A distant sound reached her ears, soft but unmistakable. Sobbing? Emma? Her voice cracked, tears welling in her eyes. The cry came again, heart-wrenching, rising from deeper within the stadium. Driven by the instinct to protect, she rushed toward it. The sound. The further she ventured, the more oppressive the darkness became. A light flickered in the distance. She stumbled forward, instincts guiding her despite the looming dread. As she approached the source, the sobbing transformed into frantic whispers. They coiled around her, seeping into her mind. "Help me! Don't leave me!" The words tugged at her sanity, pulling her toward the cavernous shadows that swallowed everything. She reached a clearing, the forgotten center of the stadium. There, beneath the flickering glow, stood a figure draped in white. The ghostly woman twisted hauntingly, her face hidden beneath unkempt hair. Pale fingers gripped the air, as if reaching out. A shiver ran down Lily's spine as she realized this wasn't just a figment of fear, it was real. "Emma?" she gasped, but the woman turned, her eyes gleaming with sorrow and something darker. Before Lily could react, the figure drifted towards her, a cold breeze wrapping around her legs. The whispers grew louder, swelling into a cacophony of agony. Laughter mixed with the cries, layering a deep sense of dread over her heart. Suddenly, another sound broke through, the thud of footsteps racing toward her from behind. Panic surged as she spun around, expecting to see her daughter, but instead, the unearthly presence had not just consumed the air, it consumed her reality. "Why are you here?" demanded a voice from the shadows. It was a voice she recognized. Mr. Thompson stepped into the light, his eyes darkened with a malevolent glimmer. "You shouldn't have come here." Lily froze, gripping her own chest as if to quell the race of her heart. The horror of understanding began to dawn on her. This was no simple mystery. There were truths buried beneath the earth, and she was perilously close to uncovering them. The wind howled, the ghostly woman still hovering, casting a long shadow behind her. With dread pooling in her stomach, Lily realized the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. What hidden secrets awaited her and Emma in the darkness? Would she uncover the truth, or would she join those who had vanished before her? Moving closer, Lily heard the whispers again, this time echoing her name. What would she find if she walked further into the unknown? Lily's heart raced as Mr. Thompson's presence tightened around her like a frayed noose. The shadows in the stadium pulsed, alive.
She dared to take a step back, but the corners of her vision darkened, threatening to swallow her whole. "You have to help me," she whispered, voice trembling as she glanced at the figure of the woman still floating, her hollow eyes piercing through the haze. Emma's cries echoed in Lily's mind, and desperation clawed at her throat. "You don't know, do you?" Mr. Thompson's lips curled into a twisted smile. "This place, it feeds on fear." Shivers cascaded down Lily's spine as she felt for the first time the weight of not just her fear, but the very essence of countless souls.
"Trapped in this realm. Emma is here," she replied, determination mingling with fear. "I will find her." "You're not prepared for what you will encounter," he warned, his haunting tone reverberating in her ears. "This is no ordinary search." Before she could respond, the ghostly woman drifted closer, her white gown sweeping over the ground like mist. The whispers had transformed, now a low, gut-wrenching chant. "Join us, join us," they called, drowning out Lily's thoughts. She stumbled, nearly losing her balance as the ground beneath her seemed to shift, the breath of anguish tickling her ear. But she couldn't be paralyzed by fear, not now. "Emma!" she yelled again, voice rising above the swirling chaos. The darkness thickened, wrapping around her limbs, anchoring her feet to the ground. Suddenly, she felt a surge of warmth, almost like a hand brushing against her arm. It drew her attention away from Mr. Thompson and the apparition before her. Was it real? Was it hope? "Lily!" a voice came from the flickering shadows, familiar, fragile. "Emma!" she screamed, pushing past the cold tendrils of despair. She followed the sound, racing deeper into the heart of the stadium, where the stench of decay coiled like a snake in the air. She forced her legs one painful step after another, the whispers turning frantic, trying to pull her back. But then, a flicker of light emerged ahead through the smog of darkness. She rushed toward it, shoving aside all thoughts of danger. As she broke through, she found herself in a vast open area encased by rotting bleachers, illuminated by an eerie glow emanating from an altar-like stone in the center. On the stone lay a doll, its porcelain face cracked and smeared with dirt. It was dressed in a white dress, so similar to the woman's. The air grew heavy, and for a moment the whispers fell silent, an unnatural tranquility gripping her. "Emma!" she cried, panic surging. Her eyes darted around, searching for her daughter, but all she saw was that damned doll. It stared up at her, an unsettling semblance of innocence now corrupted. The whispers started again, louder than before, feeding her dread. "Join the forgotten, silence the screams, forever." The walls seemed to pulse, and she staggered back, heart pounding, but the pull of that doll snared her attention. Then, all at once, the ghostly woman swooped into view behind her, her eyes blazing with anguish, her mouth twisting into a scream that pierced through the chaos. Lily turned, but Mr. Thompson surged forward, his voice cutting through the air. "You don't understand. If you touch it, you'll regret ever coming here." But it was too late. The moment her fingers grazed the doll's dress, an excruciating jolt surged through her. Visions flooded her mind, screams of the trapped, laughter of the lost, darkness devouring all light. The very essence of despair flooded her soul. In that moment, she realized this was not just a search for Emma. It was a battle for
her life, her sanity. They were asking for more than she could bear. Amidst the chaos, she heard Emma's voice once more, faint but unwavering. "Mom, help me!" Determined, Lily pulled her hand back as the darkness tried to swallow her whole. The tears streamed down her face, but Mr. Thompson reaches out, blocking her path, the shadows twisting behind him, ready to strike. "Running won't save you," he hissed. "The real horror is yet to come." What had she awakened? What would she unleash? And was Emma truly there, or was everything just a cruel trick? The answers edged closer in the encroaching darkness, and Lily braced herself for whatever lay ahead. The walls trembled, shadows moaned, and the pulse of fear deepened. As she took a step forward, the very earth beneath her began to crumble, revealing a deeper terror below. What monstrous truth lay buried, waiting for release? The ground shook violently, sending Lily sprawling onto her knees. Dust and debris tumbled from above, a rain of crumbled innocence, as the chants grew louder, drowning out her sanity. Heart racing, she struggled to rise, instinct urging her to run. But Mr. Thompson loomed closer, his shadow stretching grotesquely across the now unstable floor. "Do you feel it? The dread is alive," he taunted. But his voice was masked by the rising fear around her. She pushed herself back to her feet, eyes darting toward the flickering light that had guided her. Emma's voice echoed once more, growing stronger, but tinged with desperation. "Mom, help me, please!" She couldn't think, couldn't breathe. "Emma!" Her voice cracked, swallowed by the shadow's laughter. The ghostly woman lurked nearby, her face contorted in pain, her ethereal form gliding closer, a mournful specter that drew Lily in with its sorrowful gaze. The doll on the stone altar glowed ominously, a beacon of darkness that promised resolution at a terrible cost. "Don't touch it!" Mr. Thompson yelled, but his warning was a distant echo now. Lily felt a compulsion, a pull that made her heart flutter with impossibly intense feelings, fear mating with a twisted sense of hope. Spinning on her heels, she bolted toward the emerging light, dodging Mr. Thompson's grasping hand as he lunged. The altar's glow flickered in her peripheral vision, the tragic allure of the doll igniting a spark of curiosity amidst her panic. Emma's voice was a siren song, sweet yet laced with poison. Lily dashed across the dusty expanse, the fraying shadows grasping at her legs, trying to tether her to despair. She could see her daughter, or what she hoped was her daughter, trapped within the swirling blackness. The shapes twisted and morphed, revealing faces of lost souls, their mouths opening in silent screams, their expressions frozen in haunting grief. "Mom!" The cry was wrapped in anguish, and Lily's vision blurred with tears. Fear churned in her stomach, making her feet heavier with each step. "I'm coming, Emma!" But doubt clawed back at her. How could she help? If she couldn't even find her footing? The ground beneath her fractured, tearing like an open wound, revealing an abyss filled with writhing shadows. She stumbled, balanced on the point of falling. Everything threatened to fracture her reality. With a force she didn't know she had, she pushed onward, her heart thundering like a war drum. She felt Emma's warmth drawing near, a reprieve amidst the chaos, even if it turned out to be a mirage. "Hold on, sweetheart, I'm almost there," she cried out, oblivious to Mr. Thompson's desperate warnings. But then came a shift in the air, a heavy silence that instantly extinguished the flicker of hope. The chant morphed once again, settling into a resonant, unified voice, not whispers, but a low rumble that vibrated through the very core of the stadium. "Join us forever." In that dreadful moment, Lily felt the shadows coil around her, their icy fingers slipping beneath her skin, filling her with a chilling dread. They wrapped around her heart, constricting, squeezing out the warmth of life the closer she got to the light. Despair surged, and she was torn between taking another step or yielding to the enveloping darkness. Suddenly, the air exploded with a cacophony of sound, a mixture of screams, laughter, and the heartbeat of 1,000 tormented souls. She stumbled back, blinded momentarily by the dread. That's when she noticed it. The doll's eyes seemed to glisten with her own reflection, and the light surrounding it flickered like a dying flame. "Mom!" Emma's voice pierced her heart, but then it shifted, deeper, darker. "Mommy, help us! We're fading!" This was the moment, the choice. But would she sacrifice her soul for the chance to save Emma? Before Lily could think, before fear could catch up, a shadow lunged from behind, wrapping around her throat like a vice, pulling her down. Mr. Thompson's laughter echoed through the thickening fog, each chortle a reminder of the torment awaiting her. "Embrace the darkness. You're already one of us." Was this how it ended, with a choice made too late? The abyss loomed, hungry for her soul, and as her vision dimmed, the shadows pulled her under, joining the chorus of despair. Her last thought was a desperate question. Had she truly lost everything? And somewhere in the darkness, a deeper, more sinister laughter echoed, resonating through the hollow air. What unspeakable horror awaited her now as darkness drew her in? Where were those cries coming from? What twisted truth would she uncover? The darkness swallowed her whole, its cold embrace wrapping Lily in a suffocating grip. The weight of despair crashed over her, like waves against jagged rocks, pulling her deeper into the void. She gasped, the chill slicing through her chest like a knife. In that disorienting darkness, time warped, and nothing felt real, yet the pain in her heart was all too vivid. Emma's voice continued to echo through the abyss, a haunting plea enveloped in sorrow. "Mommy, help us!" Each word stretched, tangled in the air, as if the shadows themselves were holding them hostage. For a moment, she felt a flicker of warmth, an ember of resolve igniting within her. Lily pushed back against the choking dark, calling out, "I'm here! I'm coming!" But the shadows responded with a chorus of despair, a cruel symphony of whispers that twisted her thoughts. Lost souls surrounded her, their cries rising in urgency, merging into a cacophony that reverberated in the walls of her mind. Faces materialized, twisted, anguished, eyes pleading for release. She recognized some of them, friends, family, lost to the darkness, their forms flickering in and out. "Help us, Lily," they begged, their voices layered over each other. Panic surged through her, drowning out her will. She staggered, chest tightening, heart hammering as the shadows reached for her once more. A pair of slick, spectral hands dragged her downward, viscous tendrils coiling around her waist and limbs. She fought against them, clawing at the air, desperate for something solid to grasp. And then, just as she feared she would lose herself completely, the glow of the doll broke through the fog of despair, illuminating her surroundings with a sickly light. It pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing her closer, making her senses flare with dread and longing. The doll was alive, but it was not the innocent toy she remembered from her childhood. Its porcelain skin gleamed beneath layers of filth, eyes full of an unsettling wisdom. "Touch it," a voice rasped through the dark, the woman's figure gliding close to her once more, hauntingly beautiful in its death-like state. "Touch it, and all will be revealed." "No, I can't, I won't," Lily screamed, rage against the darkness rising like a tide. She could feel Emma's essence pulling, almost magnetic, but at what cost? Mr. Thompson's laughter echoed eerily through the void. "You want to save her? Then claim her, Lily. The power is yours if you accept it." With a surge of strength, she twisted away from the ghostly hands and pushed herself towards the glowing altar. The moment her fingers brushed the doll's surface, a hard crackle of energy coursed through her. Images flooded her mind, overwhelming her senses. Visions of anguish, loss, and dark revelry filled with twisted laughter. She gasped as memories that weren't her own swirled around her. Visions of Mr. Thompson pulling children into the darkness, of their smiles fading into terror, of parents desperately searching in vain. The realization hit her hard, revealing a twisted ritual where lives were consumed for power. Heart racing with adrenaline, she yanked her hand away, mouth dry with unspeakable horror. "I won't be part of this! I refuse!"
But the shadows, enraged at her defiance, roared to life, spiraling around her in a fever pitch of chaos. She felt their anger clawing at her, desperate to drag her back under, desperate to claim what they thought was theirs. The ghostly woman glared at her, now revealed in a fit of rage, eyes smoldering with fiery depths of
grief and betrayal. Join us, Lily. We can reform the realms. Save your daughter at last. As the shadows engulfed her again, her mind raced. She thought about Emma's laughter, her running through the yard on bright summer days. Could she really turn her back on family? The call for help remained, echoing, persistent, wrapping around her heart like a noose. And just like that, she understood. There was power in rejecting the darkness as much as in accepting the light. But would it be enough to save Emma and possibly herself? Just then, a ground-shaking tremor erupted, sending the entire arena into chaotic shambles. What terrible price would Lily have to pay now, and would she be able to face whatever lay beyond the darkness? Deafening cracks filled the air. The ground shook violently, splintering the darkness into jagged shards of reality. Lily gasped as she fought to remain upright. Life around her spiraled, shadows spinning like tornadoes, their displeasure vibrating against her skin. The whispers morphed into shrieks. They sought to drown her in their relentless despair. Then, all at once, the ground below her erupted, a fissure torn into the fabric of her surroundings. Retching screams pierced her ears as lost souls were sucked into the abyss, their faces stretching in horror, clutching at phantom hands as they were consumed. Lily staggered back, bile rising in her throat. The doll now pulsed with furious energy, its light flickering into dark shadows. She could feel its malevolence, practically tasting the power it offered. But at what cost? "Lily!" The ghostly woman's voice rang out, splintering the chaos, cutting through her panic. "You must choose, save them or embrace the dark." She felt the worlds colliding inside her head, pressure building like a vice. Emma's voice grew louder in her mind, the innocence of her child tainted by the horror surrounding them. "Mommy, I'm scared." "Stop!" Lily screamed, fists clenched. She thought of the warmth of Emma's hand in hers, of bedtime stories and laughter. Each ounce of love surged towards the forefront of her mind, shielding her from the seeping darkness. But the shadows roared, ripping at her resolve, their tendrils creeping along her skin, chilling her bones. They clawed at her memories, gnarled fingers grasping tightly, and for a moment, doubt started to seep in. Would she lose her daughter to save herself? Was there even a choice at all? "Join us, Lily. You'll have the power to bring them back." The ghostly woman stretched her hands toward her, an enticing promise shimmering between them. The smell of burnt earth and ash curled around Lily's senses, a reminder of what was at stake. "No!" she shouted, shaking her head violently. The agony of losing Emma screamed in her heart, but she wouldn't fall prey to this temptation. She remembered a glimmer of joy flickering within the darkness, a promise of light just beyond the chaos. With fierce determination, she lunged for the doll. If power was the cost, she would grab it and use it against them. Her hands closed around the doll, the warmth flooding through her body, overpowering the shadows threatening to consume her. The ghostly woman shrieked in outrage, the shadows now recoiling, hissing their disappointment. "Let her go!" The words escaped Lily's lips like a war cry. A burst of light erupted from the doll, driving back the darkness and illuminating her surroundings. For a second, she felt an urge to throw the doll away, to let its cursed power drift away forever. But the screams and howls of the shadows terrified her. Then she saw Emma, faint but radiant, just beyond the blaring chaos. "Mommy, please!" Her heart surged once more. "Hold on, Emma, I'm coming!" Yet the darkness writhed, frantically pushing back against her. The shadows merged, forming monstrous shapes, ready to unleash their wrath. Long, claw-like claws formed at the edges, reaching toward Lily like a haunting nightmare. She could feel their icy breath against her skin, pulling her back as dread coiled around her heart. "Remember!" the woman screamed, her face contorted with rage. "You'll never escape! They belong to the darkness!" In that moment, Lily understood something horrifying. She had to confront the unthinkable. Would the power she claimed protect her daughter or doom them both? As the shadows lunged, thick, suffocating, the world around them blurred and twisted. What would they find when the light flickered? Would it lead to salvation or terror unimaginable? Lily's breath caught in her throat as the swirling dark rushed for her. Choices weighed heavy, but the only thing clearer than the void was the pulsing, fiery determination in her heart. The ground began to crack again, deeper this time, as if the universe itself trembled in anticipation of what she would decide. Could she face the darkness and twist it to her will? Or would the price of defiance shatter everything she held dear? Lily's heart raced, each beat echoing the chaos around her. The doll pulsed in her grip, a flickering beacon against the advancing tide of shadows. She felt the heat radiate from the doll, soothing yet ominous, like the last sunlight before a storm. The monstrous forms advanced, their clawed edges tearing at the air, but Lily stood firm. With a guttural shout, she directed the light from the doll toward Emma. "Hold on, baby, I'm coming. I won't let them take you." Emma's face glimmered, wavering like a distant star in a stormy sky. "Help me, Mommy!" she cried, a child's innocence piercing the darkness. Every ounce of Lily's strength surged through her as she pushed the light forward, forcing it against the shadows. The creatures shrieked, their forms recoiling, dissolving into smoke as the light washed over them. But the fissure in the ground yawned wider, a gaping maw threatening to consume everything. "Join us!" the ghostly woman wailed, her voice laced with fury and desperation. "You think you can escape? This is only the beginning!" The shadows began to swirl, reforming into a massive, undulating mass. Lily squinted, trying to focus on Emma. Her heart ached, knowing time was slipping away. "Come back!" she yelled, fighting against all instincts that begged her to flee. Each cry from the abyss resonated with sorrow, and her resolve teetered on the edge of hopelessness. But then she lunged again, shoving the doll forward, feeling its warmth surge through her and sending pulses against the dark. The light exploded outward, illuminating the churning mass just before it began to engulf her. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The ground vibrated, shadows momentarily halted, and hope flickered in Lily's chest. She closed her eyes, imagining Emma safe in her arms, imagining a life free of fear. "Mommy!" Emma's voice shattered the silence, pulling Lily back into the throes of chaos. The shadows, now enraged, struck back harder. Tentacles of darkness lashed out, wrapping around Lily's legs, dragging her toward the gaping fissure that rumbled with sinister promises. "This is where you belong," they hissed, clawing at her very soul. "No!" she screamed, adrenaline pumping through her veins. "I won't let you take her!" Trembling, she tapped into the deep warmth emanating from the doll, channeling her love and desperation. Words she didn't know she could utter tumbled from her lips, ancient and unfamiliar, spiraling into the air with power. With each word, the light swelled, the dark monstrosities screeching as they thrashed around her. The fissure's pull weakened, but the shadows retaliated, crawling under her skin, filling her with ice-cold dread. Lily could sense the connection between her and the doll, a pulsing link that extended into the abyss. She felt the sinister promises echo,
the temptation to surrender, to let the shadows have this vengeance. They could bring back the lost. But then she saw Emma's face again, cracked and crying amidst the horror. Her heart splintered, propelling her further into defiance. Drawing from every painful memory, every lovely moment, and every hope she held for her daughter, Lily screamed, "I choose light. I choose love." The air exploded with blinding energy. A shockwave rippled through the encroaching darkness, tossing aside shadows like rags. They wailed, but the light surged, swallowing the panic. Yet the darkness didn't simply vanish. It writhed and twisted, revealing shapes that were far more sinister, far more real. Lily's eyes widened in terror as the shadows shifted, now appearing as the lost souls of those who had been claimed. Trapped and tormented, their faces twisted with despair. "Lily!" The ghostly woman's voice resonated, now more sinister, bubbling with malice, echoing through the chaos. "You can't resist forever. Your daughter belongs to us." Lily's breath caught in her throat, fear mixing with her resolve. What had she just unleashed? The ground trembled beneath her, the fissure now alive with shadows, seeking to reclaim what they had lost. "Mommy!" Emma's cry pierced the tumult, shaking Lily from her fright. The moment stretched thin, the pressure threatening to explode. As the darkness rushed toward her again, Lily
Had one last choice to make. Would she embrace the light she had summoned, risking everything? Or would she drown in the darkness that called to her heart? The shadows closed in, and Lily steeled herself for the inevitable clash. The ultimate battle was just about to commence. The ground shook violently as the shadows twisted and coiled, their shrieks merging into an agonizing symphony that clawed at Lily's ears. She couldn't comprehend their weight, 1,000 souls crying out in pain, and within their wails lay the sharp edges of her own fears. Emma's cries punctuated the air, breathing life into Lily's determination. "Fight it, Lily," she whispered to herself, squeezing the doll tighter. The warmth pulsed through her fingers, igniting the fiercest kind of love that no darkness could penetrate. The shadows snarled, tugging at her legs, but she refused to falter. "Stay back!" Lily shouted, releasing another surge of light. It burst forth, creating ephemeral walls that held the shadows at bay for just a moment longer. The air smelled charred, a mixture of something sweet and acrid, like burning sugar and rotten flesh. "Your strength won't last," the ghostly woman screeched, her form reshaping amongst the shadows, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "You cannot hold the darkness forever." Lily clenched her teeth, heart racing wildly, as if each beat could drown out the terror surrounding her. "I won't let you take her," she screamed. The glow of the doll brightened, each pulse synchronizing with the rhythm of her resolve. The labored forms of the souls around her began to resolve into familiar faces, people she'd lost long ago, their eyes hollow, mouths stretched into silent screams. Grief crashed over her, a tidal wave of what-ifs and could-have-beens, but the love she felt for Emma anchored her. It pressed against her like a lifeline. In that moment of despair, the woman lunged at her from the depths of chaos, a twisted representation of everything that had been taken from Lily. "Embrace the darkness! Join us! You're one of us now!" "No!" The word was raw, jagged with defiance and pain. She envisioned Emma's smile, the laughter that filled their home on sunny days. "You're wrong!" With every ounce of strength left, Lily thrust the doll forward, channeling her memories, moments of joy, raw and pure. Energies danced around her as the light exploded outward. It filled her with hope, creating a wall of brilliance just as the darkness surged towards her, claws grasping, desperate to reclaim what they desired. "Surround her!" the ghostly woman commanded, and the shadows surged, flinging themselves around Lily. Tendrils wrapped tightly around her arms, squeezing with a sickening force. Lily gasped, feeling the cold seep into her bones, but she drew even deeper from the connection she felt to the doll. "Let me go!" she cried, voice trembling, heart thundering. Another surge of light erupted, and the shadows howled in backlash. Faces continued to twist and contort in anguish.
They were children, mothers, fathers. Their eyes full of sorrow looked to her for salvation. "Save us," they implored, each voice a dagger to her heart. She was torn between their pain and Emma's innocence. "Not today," Lily shouted, focusing on the warmth. The moment stretched into eternity. She didn't just want to save Emma, she wanted to save them all. But the shadows retaliated. The ghostly woman stepped closer, her gaze burning with malevolence. "Every man and woman who has fallen will feast on your pain. You cannot win." With deft precision, the darkness lashed out, tearing at the very fabric of Lily's being. Lily felt herself slipping, tethered to fear. Darkness clouded her vision, the doll dimming, the edges of her strength fraying away. In the depths of her chaotic existence, a revelation struck. She saw it clearly now. The doll was not just a tool, it was a fragment of herself, and she needed to merge with it, to reflect the light within instead of letting it be a mere shield. "Together," she breathed, and instead of just embracing the light, she surrendered herself to it, seeking to become the light. As the shadows bore down on her, she felt the overwhelming warmth. Emerging from the overwhelming tide, she knitted their energies into one shimmering thread of hope. But just as she felt the first tendrils of victory, a shriek split the air. From the darkness, a new unspeakable horror began to rise, and Lily realized with a jolt that this was only the beginning of something much worse. "Mommy!" Emma cried, once more, urgency laced with fear. And then, everything went still. What had she awakened? The silence enveloped the space, thick and suffocating. Lily's heart felt like a wild drum, thundering against her ribs, and her breath hitched in her throat like a stone. She scanned the stagnant shadows. They lingered, watchful and sinister, the air around her thick with dread. A low, guttural growl filled her ears, vibrating through her bones. The ghostly woman had fallen eerily silent, her twisted features now masked in a creeping anticipation. The shadows recoiled slightly, forming a whirlwind of darkness that danced around Lily's feet, pulling her deeper into the abyss. "Emma!" she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. Her voice echoed back, mocking her resolve, twisting into shrill laughter that surrounded her. Ignoring the panic rising within her, she concentrated on the doll's pulsing warmth. The shadows shifted, swirling like a storm gathering strength. And from the depths, a form began to unfurl, bigger, darker than anything Lily had faced before. It was not just a shadow, it was a distortion of fear itself, an embodiment of every nightmare she had ever had. A fetid stench wafted towards her, overwhelming her senses. "Mommy!" Emma's voice faltered, a whisper of innocence drowning in terror. Lily felt that whisper lacerate her heart. She lunged forward, but the shadows tightened their grip, forming a grotesque web around her. Each tendril pulsed like a heart, drawing her into despair. With every heartbeat, the darkness threatened to consume her whole. "Face it, child," the ghostly woman's voice boomed from the swirling darkness. "You've awakened forces far beyond your comprehension. This is your doing." "No!" Lily shouted back, the defiance lodged deep within her. She pushed against the crushing weight of the shadows, summoning all the love she could feel for Emma. "You won't take her." With that, she squeezed the doll, filling her mind with memories of laughter, of summer days spent together, of bedtime stories and whispered dreams under starlit skies. Each thought ignited a flame, burning brighter within her soul. The bright light surged from the doll, shooting into the growing storm. The dark entity hissed,
recoiling as light cut through the shadows. Faces of the lost emerged again, flickering like candle flames as they were swept along with the tide of hope Lily conjured. Their vacant eyes momentarily sparkled with the essence of life, urging her forward. But the darkness fought back, raging like an untamed beast. It whipped through the air, slashing at her defenses. "You are weak, Lily. You think you can fight the inevitable?" She could feel it gnawing at her mind, the weight of failure threatening to drag her under. The doll flickered, its light dimming as waves of despair crashed around her. Each wave was a memory turned sour, a fear tailored just for her. "Together," she whispered again, her voice trembling amidst the chaos. She knew she had to connect with the doll, not as a separate entity, but as part of herself. It was time to merge their fates. "Together!" she screamed, a surge of warmth rushing through her. The doll ignited once more, illuminating the darkness like a nuclear explosion, casting away the shadows in blinding bursts. Then she saw her. Emma stood behind the writhing mass. The child was standing in a cocoon of shadow, wide eyes filled with terror. The sight twisted Lily's heart. "Emma, I'm coming!" But then 1,000 voices fell over each other, drowning Lily's determination in a cacophony of anguish. "You belong to us. You must serve the darkness." As the shadows lunged once more, enveloping her in a vortex of despair, an unimaginable force surged from beneath. It was no longer just a trap. It was an awakening. Was this the dark power that had slumbered too long, waiting for a spark to ignite? With one final push, she felt the connection solidify. "You will not have her!" The shadow shrieked, splitting apart as the light pushed through. It felt like ripping fabric as Lily's essence burst forth. But then, a flash, a horrific scream echoed, not from the shadows, but from deep within her soul. What had she unleashed? The air thickened with an ancient rage. A new horror spread, one unlike anything she had thought possible. "Run!" cried a distant voice as the shadows parted. Would they be quick enough? Lily's breath quickened, chilling fear running down her spine as she
raced toward Emma, but the darkness seemed to close in tighter than ever. And in that split second, she grasped the true question. What was hunting them now? The darkness roared like a wild animal, the walls of the stadium trembling at its ferocity. Lily felt the air crackle with power as she sprinted forward, her legs fueled by fear and desperation. The pulsating light of the doll lit her path, but only dimly. Shadows twisted and turned, clawing at her as she reached out for Emma, who stood before a shifting wall of darkness, eyes wide with terror. "Mommy!" Emma cried again, a sound that cut through the cacophony of whispers and screams. It was the lifeline Lily needed, the tether anchoring her to hope. "Almost there, baby!" Lily shouted back, pushing herself harder, heart racing faster than she thought possible. The shadows snarled and hissed, swirling around her like a tempest, attempting to tear at her resolve. But she wouldn't let them. They would not take Emma from her. In that frantic moment, a wave of shadows surged towards Lily, dark tendrils reaching out with claw-like hands, eager to snatch her back into despair. "You are outmatched!" a voice boomed from within the storm, echoing around her, twisting her mind with doubt. "Never!" she screamed, anger flaring in her chest. Emma needed her. She wouldn't let anything drown that light. Squeezing the doll tighter, she summoned every ounce of love she held for her daughter, every memory that brought warmth to her heart. The doll glowed brighter, responding to her fierce determination, as if feeding off the raw emotion pulsing through Lily. The shadows shrieked in recoil, swirling more violently, but she pressed on, every step inching her closer to Emma. Don't let them get to you, Emma, she urged, keeping her eyes locked on her daughter. The larger shadows twisted, their reaches turning inwards towards the flicker of light. Their panic only fueled Lily's resolve. Finally, she reached out her arm. "Take my hand," she cried, heart breaking with resolve at the thought of losing her little girl. Emma hesitated, fear racing across her features in the flickering light, but then she nodded, stepping forward. The moment their fingers brushed, electric warmth surged between them, a connection that shattered the shadow's grip, a bond that echoed through the darkness, igniting a fierce light. "Go, now!" Lily shouted, urgency roaring in her mind as she felt the full force of the shadows bear down behind her. Together they started to move, the shadows hissing as they pulled back, trying to reclaim their hold. Lily felt Emma's fear, but also her strength. They were in this together. Still, the darkness surged, pushing against them like an unseen force. The pulse of the doll still flickered in her grasp. "Keep holding on," Lily urged with every ounce of strength she had. The memories flooded her mind, every laugh, every hug, each flickered up like sparks lighting a bonfire. "Mommy," Emma whimpered, her small hand trembling in
Lilies! The shadows roared, their rage building as they transformed into monstrous forms, clawing closer, deepening the desperation. But just when it seemed bleakest, a blinding light surged, ripping through the tendrils of despair. An explosion of energy erupted from the doll, sending a shockwave that pushed back the darkness, revealing a path behind it. "Run!" Lily yelled, adrenaline pushing them both forward as they sprinted towards the growing light, Emma close at her side. Shadows crashed against the protective barrier, retreating in disarray, their anguished cries echoing in the air behind them. But they didn't slow. With their hands linked, their hearts aligned, they crossed the threshold into the glow. The world around them erupting in brilliance, the smell of dank earth finally giving way to a fresh twilight. Lily gasped in relief as they burst into the open, the sprawling sky above bright with stars. The night air surrounded them, cool and freeing, the horror of the stadium fading into a distant memory. But reality settled slowly. The weight of everything they had faced began to crash down like heavy stones on a fragile heart. The shadows were still there, lurking in the corner of her mind, the ghostly woman's sinister promise echoing faintly as darkness whispered, "Are we safe?" Emma's voice broke through her thoughts, fear creeping back into her expression. "Together, we'll always be safe," Lily promised, wrapping her arms around her daughter, feeling her heart steady against the tumult of horror they had escaped. The bond they shared was unbreakable, a shimmering light amidst the remnants of what they had faced. But a harrowing question lingered. What if the darkness returned? Would they be strong enough next time? The shadows may have been momentarily banished, but the cost was etched into Lily's heart, a reminder of their own fragility. Lily sank to her knees, pulling Emma into her embrace. They wept quietly, knowing the price of survival was heavy, but together they had defied the dark. For now, there was hope, and that was enough. If you loved this conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that delve deeper into the dark. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly helps us grow. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what keeps this community thriving, and only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.